And I'm sure everybody is picturing Moran dancing behind his turned off camera right now. He's probably going at it hardcore. But welcome to LG Hockey Hotline. We are here. There he is. We are here on another Saturday night. Coming at you. A lot of stuff to talk about. A lot of shit went down today. Last week with Detroit and the stuff that happened there. We'll definitely get into that stuff. Not what you look for when it comes to what you expect during the course of a season, but I guess just goes to show you never know what to expect. So anyway, I'll bring Moran in here in just a minute, but before I get into that, I'm going to talk about the All-Star game. So we as the media team had to come up with what we were going to do for the All-Star game and how we were going to run this. And, one of the things that this league has really complained about is transparency. People in the league want to know what the process is. How did you guys come to this decision? How were these players selected here? Can we be more involved? That sort of thing. So Brody and Triz left it in our hands to come up with a format for the All-Star game. It was Sibs and I worked on a lot of this. Maranaconda's been involved as well. But the three of us came up with an idea of the All-Star tournament. And each level, I know for sure the NHL and AHL is going to be doing it. Same structure, but a little bit different. So the NHL, basically, we're going to have 4 teams created to represent the 4 divisions. The owners selected all the players that you see in those 12 threads that I created for the voting. And the community gets to vote on those players to see who will represent each division. Each team could submit up to 3 forwards, 2 defensemen, and 1 goalie to be in the voting process. Voting will be broken down by division and position, which is why you see forward voting, defense voting, and goalie voting for each of the 4 divisions. And you can vote on 9 forwards, vote on 6 defensemen, and vote on 3 goalies per division, as the rosters will be made up of 18 players. The 9 forwards, 6 defensemen, and 3 goalies are what make up each roster. And then the basic rules, it is a round robin series to determine the final 2 teams. So basically all 4 teams will play each other one time, and the 2 top teams out of that round robin will face each other in a 3-game series. Now in the round robin part of the tournament, every one of the 9 forwards, 6 defensemen, and 3 goalies have to play 1 game. That gets everybody involved and really see how deep your all-star team is against the other all-star teams. The tiebreakers for the round robin, if the records are the same for the 2 top teams or the second and third team, will be most wins, least losses, most goals for, least goals against. And then as far as if a player gets voted onto the All-Star team, but for whatever reason can't make the game, they will be replaced with the next highest vote getting player from that team, or a player from that team of the captain's choosing. Of the team that is losing that player. So after the voting has taken place, the top voted for player for each division will be notified, and they will be their team captain. Next Friday, March 10th, Triz has done me a huge favor. I kind of browbeat him into doing this, but we're basically going to do a draft. Not sure if we're using the Friday Night Puck draft system or if we're going to use the IHL draft system, but we will be doing a draft of all of the players that were voted into the All-Star game except for the 4 captains. The only restriction in the draft is that each captain can only select 9, 6, and 3, respectively, for the positions. So, for example, you cannot pick 10 forwards and 5 defensemen. You have to pick 9 forwards, 6 defense, and 3 goalies. It'll go in order, of course, of who received the highest votes. The very highest vote winner for each division is the captain, but then, of course, it's highest vote, just like everybody would expect. The club challenge versus pin system, we have not decided what we're going to use yet. We are talking to the league because we have to keep track of the scores for sure for the round robin to play to see who's going to play in the winning series. The winning team in that, well, first of all, the 3-game series, the lines, you can play the same 6 guys in each of those 3 games. You do not have to involve every player. Just in the round robin does every player have to go. So you can go with highest vote getting or best line, whatever you want to do, which I think is really cool as well. And then the winning team will get, we'll see if we can get banners beneath your name. And
Let's face it, the winning team ain't going to get $1 million. That's for sure.
No. And the winning team will hopefully, if I'm going to have to message BJ and see if he can make a little emblem, but we'd like to get a all-star emblem next to their name in the shout box as well for the rest of the season. So voting polls, I set them to close for next Thursday, but I talked to Triz today, and I'm actually going to have to manually close them next Wednesday because Triz will be out of town, so we have to set up the draft on Thursday. So I will put out an update in here so you guys can see it in writing when they'll close, but the polls are only going to be open till Wednesday night because Triz has to put the draft together on Thursday. Moran, what do you think about this?
I love it. I think it's going to be a good way to get, people excited about the All-Star game again. Honestly, let's face it, it's kind of lackluster
or not been non-existent
or not existed for the last since LG came to the PlayStation side. So, I mean, it has happened in the past, but, we're trying to give it a little bit of a boost here and trying to get more people involved, trying to get, people to give a shit about it, basically. I mean, a lot of people have been like, oh, whatever, it's just the All-Star game. But you know what, man, it's the All-Star game. These guys earned this throughout their play throughout the season. And, I think it's just something cool that we can do for the players by having an all-star weekend, and getting the emblems next to their names. If we can somehow work that out, just to have a little bit of something to show, throughout the season, because not everybody who's going to be selected for the All-Star game is going to, have accolades at the end of the season. They're not going to be Stanley Cup champions. They're not going to get the little Stanley Cup next to their name. They may not win any awards, but that still doesn't mean that they didn't do shit throughout the season. These are good players who need to be recognized for the fact that they are good players. And, this is just a little small way for us to do that. We want all-stars to be recognized. You went out and you busted your tail for your team, and you were voted to be one of the better players on your team, if not the best. And, this is your chance to go and get a little recognition outside, above and beyond, the weekly stars, or, I guess the who's hot and who's not, of the night, the players of the night. It's a little bit extra that you get as far as recognition goes to be an all-star and have it mean something on the site.
Yeah, and one of the other things going into this, some people may think, why are those teams so big? Why are there going to be like 70 all-stars? Because it's a video game. We're not going to have a 3-hour all-star game. They're like 23 minutes. And we decided that, people, it's like a mini tournament. And as competitive as the guys are in this league, it gives you something a little more to play for. And you get a chance to play against each of the all-stars. For example, in the real NHL, they do the 3-on-3 all-star format, and they do a tournament, but it's basically West versus West, East versus East, or captain team versus captain team, but they don't play each other to get to the finals. So you don't see, let's say team A beats team B, but then loses to team C. And then team C beats team B and loses to team A, or however it works. This way you get to see everybody face each other and really see which all-star team is the best. And also gives the 4 highest vote getters a chance to build a team and see what they can do. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see how this plays out. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch for sure. And, I don't really think that it's that big of a deal to have that many players in it because it's a tournament style. And I think a lot of guys seem to have, at least to this point, given positive feedback. Now, I do want to throw a little disclaimer. Please don't hate on me if your guy did not make the list, because like I said, the owners gave me the names and I just made the list. I did Moran, myself, T-Sibs, nobody in staff had any say in who was on the all-star list. That is, every owner picked the guys from their team, and then you, the league, are choosing from that list who will be in the game. So, that's the best way to make this process transparent, in our opinion, and that's why we decided to go that route.
Right.
So now I created each of those 12 threads, and I don't know if everybody checks the pinned threads or how that all works, but basically I made 13 threads. I made 12 voting threads, and then I made the master thread with all the rules, which is pinned to the very top of all the threads and will stay there till the All-Star game is completely finished. So if you want access to each of those threads in order, there's a link to each of those 12 threads in the main thread at the very top of the page. So you can access them all by just going to the main thread and clicking the link. That's the quickest and easiest way to go check it out, see how the voting has turned out, that sort of thing. And we've gotten really good turnout so far. There's guys with 60, 70, 80 votes already. So thank you guys for your participation and for the positive feedback so far. I think that this should be, so it's definitely different. I think this is something that could be monumental for the PSN side of LG. I think this is going to be something extremely fun to watch play out, and it could stick next season as the way we do it. I think we'll probably stick with the same format, but we might try a couple of different things because the All-Star Game's about having fun. So, if anybody out there has any other ideas for next season, not opposed to listening to those either. So, we want to get everybody involved as far as the league goes. I think when people are involved, a lot more fun is had. So, moving on from the All-Star Game, Ban Hammer. The Ban Hammer has been out in force for the last, week and a half, and a lot of it relating in one way or another to second tagging, which I believe we made our views clear on last week. We lost an owner today, Chiz Nasty. I like Chiz a lot, and as an owner, basically, if you have information on this and the league finds out, you either have to offer them the information or you take the fall yourself. And rather than give up his friends or whoever it was that he knew, he took the fall. So in a way, in one sense, it's like I respect somebody for respecting their friends, but at the same time, I want a clean league. So I don't, have any misgivings about whether or not, if someone cheated, I don't want them here playing. I don't, there was heated debate in the shout box mostly today too, but all week about all this stuff. What are your thoughts, Moran?
It's cheating, man. Why have second tags? And not only that, but why play on somebody else's account? There's a lot of the rumors that are going around. Why? There's no point.
You don't get the recognition if you play amazing under somebody's name
for it. And if you win something, it's dirty. What's the point, man? What's the point? There's 0 point in it. It is what it is, and whatever comes down and whoever it goes to, sorry, but you know what? There's rules, and there's rules for a reason. And it's if you want to play 8 games a week, go play in VG. You have to build a team here, and all 17 players on that roster are responsible for being that team and participating as themselves on the team. Plain and simple. I have 0 tolerance for it, honestly. It is what it is. People can hate me for that or not. I don't care, but it's cheating. I hate it. I hate that, it was a friend of ours that, didn't even do it. I don't even know. I mean, I don't know the whole, he definitely didn't do it,
No.
but apparently according to the stuff he knew about it, and I totally understand that. Like, I understand the whole, like all of it. It just sucks, man. Like the whole thing sucks. I mean, the league's really cracked down on it. It sucks to see these guys go down because I like Chiz a lot. And it's just disappointing to see that, like, I mean, whose names are going to be tied to stuff like this? It's just crazy to me. It just sucks, man. The whole thing sucks. I just, I really wish none of that would ever happen. I mean, what's the point, man? What's the point? I don't understand. Like, it sucks all the way around for everybody.
It does.
It just sucks, man. It sucks for the league, sucks for the players, sucks for the teams, sucks for everybody. It's just,
I mean,
it's a bummer, man.
Yeah, and who knows if that's it, if there's more coming, anything like that. But it's now become a more than week-long event and doesn't seem like it's going away. I hate to see it myself, but what are you going to do? I mean, basically for the people who aren't involved, there's people like, for instance, Jay Dragoon was playing goalie for Detroit, having a really good season. Detroit gets every win for, turned over. I guess basically, let me go to this real quick. I'm going to read the statement from Straight Psycho Pindy, who is now a Bog. Basically, the league had set it up where there was a rule that stated that the statute of limitations was 2 weeks. So they had originally reversed Detroit's games for week 2 and week 3, but not week 1 for the games that banned players played in. And there was an uproar of that because it affected points and divisions. I know our division played Detroit week 2, and Detroit beat everybody in our division except for 2 teams. And all of those games got reversed except for one, so that affects our division, just as an example. And then, of course, week 3, same thing. So the league says the Bogs originally made a ruling to have games from weeks 2 and 3 be overturned to reflect a loss on Detroit's record based on illegal players being used in said games. After some discussion amongst all staff, we have decided to make a ruling change to reflect weeks 1 through 3 and revise the rule that is currently in place, Article 4, Section 2.4, if anyone wants to look it up, which states for minor offenses, there will be a statute of limitations of 2 weeks for reversals. We will revise the rule to include more serious offenses, which will step outside the 2-week limitation for cases such as this. Our original ruling was based on the Constitution. With that being said, we have agreed that we have made an error in this decision and that corrective measures will be taken to revise the current ruling in the Constitution going forward. So I applaud the league for reviewing it in that sense to do something of that. And in this situation, Forthy loses and the players who weren't involved, they lose, maybe 1 or 2 wins on the season now when you maybe had, 8, 9, 10, 12, 15, 18 wins as a goalie. Who knows? So basically it just leaves a tornado effect, a hurricane effect through a town where all the damage is done and you leave the people who didn't have any part in it to deal with all the issues.
Right. Yeah, it's a bummer, man. What more can you say about it?
Well, nothing, I guess. So,
yeah.
Were there any house cleaning things you needed to get to?
No, that was basically it, really. I mean,
that was
that
a lot of
whole
house cleaning.
Yeah, I mean, that whole thing is just.
Yep. So,
shame.
If you haven't turned off your menu music, do it now. So this week we're talking about the East Metropolitan Division. Let's go ahead and get into our division spotlight. We will start off with the New York Rangers. The Rangers, interesting. They've found themselves in a familiar spot. They've been around the 6, 7, 8 spot in their division the last couple of seasons, and not for lack of trying on their part with players like, they made a move to bring in Jay. They've got Corsi 88, who's a really good player. But this team seems to, for whatever reason, just has struggles, and they're sitting at the bottom of the division right now. Lost their last 5 games of the week. They're 5-7-2 in 1-goal games. They're 11-23-2 on the season, which is about 12 games under 500. Another rough one for the Rangers right now. Not to say that they couldn't turn it around, but I'm sure Jet Up is upset right now with how things have turned out, especially with some of the caliber players that he has on his team. What do you think about the Rangers, Moran?
I mean, let's give it to them. I mean, they definitely went out and tried a different approach this year.
They spent their money.
They spent their money, and it just seems like they're still in the same spot, man. It's unfortunate. They have some big names on the team. Run Like Hell, Sabres, Corsi, Jay,
Big Mummy.
Big Mummy. They've got a lot of talent on the team. It just seems like for whatever reason, it's just not working.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me, I can understand that right now. But it's just. I don't know if it's their goaltending or if it's their defenders or if it's just a combination of everything. I mean,
right.
Greeno is a good defender. I know Greeno Killer Cookie's on the team now. We'll see how that helps him.
Killer Cookie played with the Anaheim Ducks last season and had an outstanding season. So the Rangers, bring him in to try and gather a little magic. But, yeah, they're struggling. I know what it's like to be struggling like that at certain points, as far as it goes for us, our top line's carrying the weight, but for our other 2 lines, it's been a struggle just like this.
Yeah, they're having a rough go at it this year, and it sucks to see because like we said, they went out and they tried. They had, if I remember correctly, several draft picks. I could be wrong on that, but pretty sure they had a few, and just for whatever reason or another, it just has not gotten going for the New York Rangers yet this season. And this week there's no let up. They're playing against their division and parts of the Eastern Atlantic this week. So they could make up some ground this week, but I'm afraid that they're so far back with teams like the Flyers, sitting at 50 points. They're 26 points back of the Flyers. So, I hate to say it, but they're not going to catch them. And then the Devils are sitting right at 48 points. That's going to be a hell of a task to catch them. They'd have to win, 3 games for every one they lost for the rest of the season, at least, and hope that, the Devils do exactly the opposite of that. So, when you put it in those terms, that's a hell of a mountain to climb. And, it's just, they're sitting way down there in the standings right now. And I don't know what they can do to get themselves, back up. Oh, geez.
What?
I was just having to notice the last place team in the Eastern Conference. That's a bummer. But they're way down there, and if it wasn't for all of the wins that were turned over for Detroit, they would be sitting in the bottom spot right now.
Yep.
So it's tough, man. It's going to be tough to finish out the season, but I have a lot of faith in the ownership group over there, and those guys will definitely have teams showing up for the games and playing. They aren't going to roll over and be last year's Detroit or anything. They're going to be there for every game. They're going to give it everything they got, and they're going to do everything they can to get themselves, back into contention here down the stretch.
Right. Well, For example, Corsi is 8-4 with 31 points, 24 goals, 7 assists, and Jay is 7-3-1. They've got guys that can win. Sabers is 3-7 on the season, but he's proven season over season for seasons 1 through 3 that he can get it done. So if they can find a line combination that allows them to have those guys spread out on 2 lines, they've got some guys that can help them get going. But at this point in the season, we're going to hit the midway point at the halfway point of this week. This is like you need to go 8-1, 9-0 territory a couple of times to get yourself back in there. It's just mathematically not going to be possible with teams like New Jersey and Philadelphia at the top of your division.
Right.
So, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, I mean, it's going to be, like we said, a very, very tough, very, very steep mountain to climb for the New York Rangers. But that being said, we will go ahead and move on to the Columbus Blue Jackets, a team that is under new ownership this year, a team that has,
it wasn't supposed to be.
That wasn't supposed to be under new ownership. They kind of had a change right before the season had started or was about to get underway. And, 4H Pestilence took over, who was a well-known AHL GM, came in and chose his GM maybe not so wisely, I guess, in Goss Despair, some things happened there with whatever, and he ended up being removed from the league. So he's down a GM right out of the gates, maybe a week and a half in, maybe 2 weeks in.
Hey,
so
speaking of the Blue Jackets, they just traded Young God, who they picked up from the Detroit Red Wings, back to the Detroit Red Wings for Mahan Solo, first round pick and defense trade. So that trade got reversed for whatever reason. Just wanted to throw that in there since we're talking about Columbus right now.
Interesting, or maybe they just decided to reverse it. I don't know.
Right.
We'll have to find out the details on that as the show goes on. But this team is sitting almost in the same spot as the Rangers. They're only 3 points north of the Rangers at 27 points. They're sitting right on the cusp of basically their season could be over here real soon if they don't really start getting it going here. They've 35 points is the benchmark. So, I mean, they're only sitting, what is that? 8 points out right now of a playoff spot. So, I mean, it's attainable, I guess. So, I mean, that's the only thing that these teams at the bottom of the division have going for them right now is that, the 7-8 spots, those wild card spots in the Eastern Conference are sitting at 39 and 35 points. So
right.
It's reachable for a lot of these teams, but a lot of things have to go right for them and some things have to go wrong for other people. So it's going to be a tough task.
Well, it's basically because teams like Florida and Philly seem to be destroying everybody they play. So, so far, other than 7 times for the Panthers and 10 times for the Flyers, it's been a guaranteed 2-point loss in the standings for all those teams. So, but I mean, the other problem there, even though it's a tight race, for Columbus as an example, they're sitting in 13th right now. They'd have to jump the Senators, Islanders, Canadians, Maple Leafs, and Penguins to get into that spot. And even though they're only 8 points out, you need a lot of help from those other teams to make that jump. So it's a tight race there for that wild card race, but you got to start making your moves now. They do have Kev, formerly known as Triggered Kev 86, who's 7-4-1 on the season, and he's got 38 points, having an outstanding year for them. He's been playing with Illy Philly, who's the AGM over there. And It's a Glitch Goals having a pretty solid season too, 6-4-1 with 29 points. But their draft picks didn't seem to work out as well as they had hoped, and we'll see how it goes. They made a couple of trades last weekend, brought in Cinnabons. They made a trade to get Crisis back in there, who is a left winger, I believe, isn't he? Or is he the right winger? I can't remember now. He's a left winger. And then McLaughlin on defense has had a solid year for them. He's 7-5. He's got 10 points. He's almost a point a game. but they're sitting in a tough spot, and the team has underperformed to this point. So we'll see what happens with the Columbus Blue Jackets. It'll be tough for them to recover, but I guarantee Pest won't give up. So let's move on to the New York Islanders, who are sitting at 32 points right now. They are in the 11th spot in the race for the playoffs, but they're only 3 points behind the Penguins right now, who are the next spot above them. They're sitting there with 32 points. Looks to be that their problem has been scoring, and they are a minus. Oh, let's see. 33 on the year for goals, 4 goals against. They've only scored 109, and they've got 142 goals against. And when you're struggling to score and you're giving up goals, it's extremely tough. They lost a defenseman early in the season in Heinekens, who, for whatever reason, personal reason, had to leave the league, and that didn't help. They had to try and fill that void. But they're a little bit closer in this race, though. You look at that from the last playoff spot, working yourself into the playoffs to face a team like Philly or something like that. You're going to have to get markedly better to be able to compete at that high of a level. So the Islanders right now are 7-6-2 in 1-goal games. So obviously if they swing a couple of those 1-goal games, those 6 losses or 2 OT losses, we're talking about a couple more points, and they're in that spot. So, maybe a couple things didn't go their way. They're right around the 500 mark, 4 games below. But another team that just, last season they got hot at the beginning of the year and then fell back a bit. It got bounced, I think, in the first round of the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. And this year, struggling a little bit again. Caesar usually finds some players to put on his team that can play well together, but there's, the second half of last season and this season, they're struggling just a little bit to hit their stride.
Yeah, they are. They're definitely doing better than they were out of the gates. They've picked it up a little bit here and tried to seem to have found maybe a little bit of consistency here. They seem to be a little more. They had a really good week 2, going 7-2 on the week, and so that kind of helped pull them out of it. But they followed it right up with 2 3-win weeks. So it kind of put them right back down into it. So, this team needs to find some consistency here. They need to find, something to get them going and get them out of neutral. They put together a really good week 2. Whatever you did in week 2, do that again. Because that was against, no schmucks. Week 2, they played Colorado, Florida. They won Florida. They played Nashville. They played Chicago. They played Dallas. They played Minnesota. They played Winnipeg, St. Louis, and Detroit. That Detroit game was turned over. That is one of those many games that was turned over by the league. But, so they had gone 6-3 in that week, and they beat some damn good teams. So, whatever they were doing in week 2, they need to find that again, because they had a good week in week 2 against top teams. So, it's going to be a consistency thing with them. And they have good players. We had just sent a defenseman and B37 Will over there to them, and he's a guy that I love, and I wish him well. I hope he does good over there for the Islanders. He's a great guy. They're going to love him. He's a good player. If they paired him up with somebody like Donkey X, wink, wink, you might have a damn good D pair there. Donkey's a very solid player in his own right. They have Jazz, Math Double, Noel Baby. They have solid players over here. So this team could definitely get something going here if they could find some consistency. Their netminders, are solid players. So find some consistency. And, I think this team could get themselves right back into the conversation here.
Yeah. Like I said, it's a tight race. So, they're not, I wouldn't say they're out of it, but
not at all. They're 3 points out. They're right there.
but you're sitting at a spot in the season where, week 5, week 6, heading into the trade deadline, these are crucial weeks to your chance at a playoff run of any kind. Most teams don't want to just make the playoffs. They want to make the playoffs and make some noise. So, um, we'll see what they can do. They're definitely trying, making a couple of moves, bringing in Will, um, but guys like Rich 2K8, he's having a solid season. Jay Falcon, the GM over there, solid season. Their win-loss records are right about 500, but um, they're probably, those are the type of guys who, one bounce here or there, they can make all the difference. They ended the week beating Toronto 8-1. They beat the Sharks 5-3, but lost a game to the Sabres, the Coyotes, and the Kings. So, just not had the consistency that they want, but they're right around the 500 mark and could definitely make some noise if they make the right moves and get the right combinations out on the ice. So,
yeah, I think their defense and their team defense and back end have got to get it going here. They're sitting, I believe, third in goals against. So that's something that they need to work on. But if they can get that figured out, they're right there. They're within reach. So a little consistency can go a long way for them.
Yep. So let's move on to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Tusalik, of course, the owner over there, he has them sitting right now in the 8th position in the Eastern Conference playoff race. Got guys on his team, just made a move to get Gucci Mane in. I think they traded, I can't remember who they traded a player and a first-round pick to get Gucci Mane in from the Red Wings. They made a move to get J Rose in. They've got Carlson MVP, who's having a really good season. He's 6-3-3, so only 3 of his 12 games he didn't pick up a point in. He's got 32 points on the season. They've got Busy 313, who they made a move with Boston to get a couple weeks ago. They've got B Bunny, who's just tearing it up again. He's got 8-1-3 record with 48 points, 26 goals, 22 assists, plus 18. Blade Runner GT is a solid defenseman. He's sitting right at a point a game on the season. He's got 12 games, 12 points. They've got EXE 53. I've got your 6. They picked him up, I believe, last week. And Jeff, 0012, they made a trade to bring in Jay, I think 2 weeks ago, and traded him to the New York Rangers to get Jeff. And he's 6-1-1 on the season. He's missed a few games, but this team definitely has talent from top to bottom. And, if they can find a way to get these guys all clicking on all cylinders on a nightly basis, this team has the ability to be a dangerous team.
Yeah, they do. They're another one of those teams that started off fairly bad, I believe, if I remember correctly. Let's go check. They started off 3-6, and then they had a 2-7 week. Could have been some overtime losses there. Pardon me if I do miss those. But then they've come back here and put together 2 5-win weeks, and look to continue their upward rise. They did make some moves to improve this team. They've brought in some extremely solid players. They made a move that brought in Busy 313 back a couple weeks ago, and Bunny, like you said. They've got some firepower here. Carlson MVP is a guy, who just straight puts the puck in the net. And it's a shock to me to see that guy with 15 goals and 17 assists. Usually it's the other way around by far for Carlson MVP. So Carlson's having a great year for them, going out and playing the complete game when it comes to the offense. So this team's definitely got some serious, they've got some serious talent here, and they could definitely be putting together a run here to make some noise with stay at home D back there on the back end, big Lammers. It's definitely there. This team could really put together a run here with the talent that they have. I would look for Pittsburgh, honestly, if they can get everything going together, to really start to get above and north of the 500 mark starting this week, as they come in and they're playing the Atlantic Division this week. They have some winnable games here. They start off with Boston. That's going to be a tough game. Tampa Bay could be winnable. Ottawa, Montreal. Then they got a tough one against Florida. Then they got Detroit, and who knows what Detroit's going to look like come start of the week. And then Buffalo, who's been playing extremely well lately. Columbus has definitely been playing better than they were. And then they got Detroit again. So, having Detroit twice this week could help them, depending on how Detroit looks coming out of the break here. But they've got a favorable schedule this week to go out there with the firepower that they have and put some W's on the board.
For sure. Guys like B Bunny, who 4 weeks into the season has almost 50 points already. He at the pace he's on, he could be looking at the single season record, which is 111 points. If they put some things together, it wouldn't surprise me to see something of a run out of the Pittsburgh Penguins. They definitely have some high caliber offensive talent. Plus, they also made a move to bring in Big Lammers in net, who had an incredible year with Columbus last season, and looks to be holding the form this season. In that his goals against isn't quite as good as it was last season, but he did play with Columbus the first couple of weeks, who were struggling in front of him. Looks like he's played pretty well since he got to Pittsburgh. So we'll see what happens with the Pittsburgh Penguins. They're sitting right now, of course, in the last playoff spot. This division is fairly tight the rest of the way up. So we'll see what happens there. Let's move on to the Carolina Hurricanes. This team is sitting right now at 18, 15, and 3, 39 points. They're sitting in the 7th spot, the first wild card spot, excuse me. And they are 7-3-3 in 1-goal games. They've got 122 goals for and 133 goals against. Kind of interesting that they're 3 games above 500 and have 10. They're minus 10 in goal differential. What's interesting to me about this team is, for most of the teams, you see a record of an away record like 11-5-1, and the home record being closer to 500. But the Hurricanes are 12-5-2 when hosting and 6-10-1 when on the road, which is kind of interesting because a lot of teams have it the other way around. But the Hurricanes have definitely made an improvement from where they were last season. They've got some really good talent on their roster this season. They drafted Pupin since 95. He's 5-6-1 on the season, but he has 26 points. He's pulling his weight. They made a trade to bring in Reddy. They made a trade to bring in Schneider and net, who is doing what he normally does. He's 11-4-2 on the season. Rep 71 is having a decent year. They've got Brentley Mulligan was another draft pick of theirs. So, excuse me. And this team really so far has played well. And I think if they can keep doing what they're doing, they've got, let's see, Skilled Python was named their GM. He just GM'd the Charlotte Checkers to a Calder Cup. So, they've got guys who've got the experience. They've got guys who've been there. They brought in TC, who was with the New Jersey Devils early in the season. The Hurricanes are definitely a different team than they were last season.
Yeah. They've kind of been up and down, throughout their existence here and on the PlayStation side, and under the same ownership the entire time here. And they've got themselves in a good spot right now. They've got themselves in the 7th spot in the Eastern Conference. They're keeping it somewhat consistent here. They started out week 1 with 4 wins, then they built to 5 wins, and then they built to 6 wins. So, then they drop back down to a 3-win week here in week 4. So it'll be interesting to see if they can get themselves back up. That they started out week 1 and they slowly built. They They got to week 3, they were at their peak, and then boom, they dropped right back down with a 3-win week. So I think again, for this Carolina Hurricanes team, the key for them is going to be finding some consistency, finding the right lines, and sticking with them. Playing the same 5-man units together, I think if they haven't done that already, could be something that could really, really help this team. They've got a great couple of goaltenders. Schneider's sitting right there with a 2.88 goals against average, again, out there having a good season. So, they've got solid players on this team. It just looks like, there's a few here and there that have struggled a bit. But, they've got a lot of points on this team. They're the 3 games above 500. They're sitting at, the thing that stands out to me the most, I guess, is that they're sitting in the 7th spot. They're 18, 15, and 3, but yet they're 11 down in the goal differential. They've scored 122 goals. They've given up 133. So that, to me, is where they got to focus. They got to focus on their defense, and they've got to focus on stopping the other teams from scoring. If they do that and keep their scoring the same, maybe, or bring their scoring up just a little bit. It's a lot easier to focus on keeping other teams from scoring than it is to bring your own scoring up. So I think for this team, what they got to do is go out, focus on taking care of their own end, taking care of business at home, and getting down the ice and breaking out and getting into the zone and getting goals put up on the other team.
That's a lot of stuff to focus on.
It sure is. But, the point there is that you start in your own end. For this team, I think they got to start in their own end, get that squared away, and everything else is already there.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Moving on to the Washington Capitals, this team has clearly turned around from where they were last season, sitting at the very bottom of the NHL. The Capitals are sitting at 44 points right now, 3rd in their division. They are, at their 5th best team in the conference, and really are a night and day difference from what they were last season. It's nice to see. They put Braden in ownership. He's an outstanding D-man. And it's nice to see how they've turned things around. They've got Pacioretty, who everybody knows is a very solid winger. They just made a trade last week, I think it was last week, to bring in Nuge, who's 9-2-1 on the season with 37 points. They've got GB 521, who's leading the league in points right now with 52. He's got 51. He's got 25 goals, 26 assists. Curb Stomp's having a really good year with 26 points. He's 7-3-1. They've got Leafy, of course. Lord Finesse, who is a guy that doesn't really get talked about very much, but has an outstanding season every year, doesn't ever lose very many games. They made a trade last week to bring Mooner 2014 in net. He's 11-5-1 on the season. Excuse me. Sweet Lou moved to defense this season. He's their AGM. He's 8-4. He's just under a point a game. He's got 10 points in 12 games. Braden's at a point a game, like I was saying. This team, SJU Soccer 9 is the GM for them. This team has shown to be a tough task every single night. They're 20-12-4 on the season. So, the Capitals have made a huge turnaround from where they were, especially at this point last season.
Yeah, I mean, and let's, but I don't even really know how to say this, but in a alternate dimension, they're sitting right about the same spot they were last year. Because we got to remember, this is the Edmonton Oilers, who did finish 3rd in the Pacific Division last year. So it's that team. They just have the Washington Capitals logo on them, but there are a lot of new pieces here. You are right. Going out and picking up Mooner, I think, was a great move for them. He's a very solid goaltender, a very underrated goaltender in this game. And, it's good to see Mooner out there on a team that's doing good. Picking up Nuge was huge for them. Nuge is an all-star in this league. He's out there getting it done. 18 goals, 19 assists, plus 22 on the season, 9-2-1. So they've got the talent on this team to really make a push for the playoffs here. Pacioretty is surprisingly 5-6-1 on the season, with the amount of talent that he has. There's a line right there that's just waiting to bust loose. So you got a lot of talent on this team, and coming up this week, they have the Toronto Maple Leafs twice this week in back-to-back games on Sunday night. They play a home and home with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and then they have the Lightning, Ottawa Senators, then they take on the New Jersey Devils, the Florida Panthers, Detroit, Montreal, and Boston. So there's definitely some winnable games for them coming up this week, and some tougher ones. They'll be able to gauge themselves this week, taking on teams such as New Jersey and the Florida Panthers and the Boston Bruins. So, taking on those teams, that'll be a nice way to gauge themselves, see where they're at, see where they might need to fix things or change things. And then there's some other teams that they may be able to go out and pick up some W's against. So it's going to be an interesting week for the Washington Capitals. They have a very solid team, and they've kind of been there. They had a good week one coming out right out of the gates, going 7-2, and then they did an absolute palindrome of that. They went 2-7. So not palindrome, but reverse, I guess, of that. They went 7-2 and then 2-7. But then, in week 3, they came out and they got 5 wins, and then they ramped it back up and they came out and they got 6 wins in week 4. So, I would look for Washington to definitely be there when the dust settles. I think they have a good team. They have a very deep team. They have good players throughout. So, Sweet Lou is a great player. Braden obviously is a solid player. They have a lot of good talent from their goaltender on out on this team. So I would definitely expect Washington to keep consistent here and, definitely be pushing to be in the playoffs come after week 9 here.
Yeah, for sure. So let's move on to the New Jersey Devils. This team, Jay Claus took over, and they've been right there all season. They've got a really good decor. Claus made a very smart move in getting Odie to be his GM, who saved him a ton of room in cap so he could go out and get official mark. And of course, Claus, like I was saying preseason, Claus has an advantage that not very many people has, as he can have himself on his own roster, a $10 million player last season for free. So, I mean, I know it might upset you just a tiny bit, but I'm not a $10 million player that you have as your GM. So they just made a move to pick up Kush Demon. They brought in JD Hegel, who, he's 10-2 on the season with 29 points, having a really good rookie season. Rhino, he picked up and got in net for, I think, $500,000 was his contract. Guy who played forward season 2 in Rockford and had an outstanding season. I believe after everything was all said and done, he led the league in points. Novak for Prez is 9-2-1 on the season with 29 points. This team is a powerhouse when it comes to putting up points and being able to stop people from having offensive zone time possession. Kyle Y12 is 8-2 on the season. He's a point a game. They've got Jay Barnett, who's having a really good season on defense. Of course, Flapjack, he 31 points on the season for Flapjack, having a very solid season to this point. So they've got their scoring spread out all over the place. I mean, they're sitting right now with, official mark and Odie, defenseman, both 10-2. 2 points a game on the season. They both have 24 points, 4 goals, 20 assists apiece, plus 30, plus 28. Odie's plus 30 and official marks a plus 28. And Jay Claus having 44 points on the season. He's 11-1, 28 goals, 16 assists, and a plus 23. What can you say about the New Jersey Devils other than they're a hard team to play against every single night? Claus is known to be able to build a really good team, and they brought Bielski back in net. So far, they've been a powerhouse. and that's what Moran thinks about him.
The New Jersey Devils are definitely a team that should be a favorite coming out of the Eastern Conference, if you ask me. They're a team under great leadership. Claus, like you said, is a $10-12 million player playing for peanuts here, for New Jersey, and it's good to have somebody like that on your roster. He's lost one game on the season. So this is a good team from top to bottom. Scooping up Rhino is kind of a not a lot of people across the league knew who Rhino was. Obviously, when you look at his contract, you can see that. That's a very, very solid goaltender at league minimum price. So doing that allowed him to go out and get other players at a great price. Having Flapjack on the team is a great addition to that team. Jay Barnett is a solid player. They just went and made that move to pick up JD Hegel last week. He's 10-2 on the season. Picking up Cush Demon was a huge move for this team. He is an outstanding right winger who can straight just get it done for you. Odie, or Bad Play BJ, has gone out and done what he does.
That's not Bad Play BJ.
Oh, my bad. But anyway, Odie has gone out and done what he does. He's 10-2 on the season with 24 points, 4 goals, 20 assists, plus 30. So they've got a solid team from top to bottom. And like I said, look for this team to be there when the dust settles in the Eastern Conference. They came out of the gates in week 1. They went 8-1. And then they came out and had an uncharacteristic New Jersey Devils J Claus led team in week 2 and went 2-7. Could have had some overtime losses there. Like I said, overtime losses are losses in my book. That's 2-7.
Ended the week on a 6-game losing streak.
Yeah, that's just crazy for a Claus led team. But they came back. They got 6 wins the next week. And then they came back and they got 6 wins in week 4. Now coming into week 5 here for the New Jersey Devils, they come out of the gates playing the Ottawa Senators. Then they have the Detroit Red Wings, the Buffalo Sabres, the Boston Bruins, the Washington Capitals, then Tampa, and then the Ottawa Senators again in the same week. And then the Florida Panthers, and ending the week with the Montreal Canadiens. So I would look for New Jersey to come out, scoop up some points against division foes and conference foes this week. I would look for them to put together another 6-7 win week here. And they have to. They have to go out and do that against division and conference opponents. And if they do that, they're just going to continue to rise up. They're sitting 2 points back of Philadelphia right now. They can easily catch and pass Philadelphia. That's going to be one to keep an eye on as the season goes on, is the battle for the Metro division title between New Jersey and the Philadelphia Flyers, because that's going to be an outstanding matchup to keep an eye on as the season goes on.
Yeah, it is. And speaking of the Philadelphia Flyers, we are trying to get Checkmate on here as well, but we have Downey Time coming on here to talk about his first place Philadelphia Flyers, sitting at 50 points right now, having a really good year. What's going on, Downey? We haven't talked to you in a while. It's been too long.
Yeah, it's been a while, man. How you guys doing?
Oh, not too bad.
Doing good, man. Doing good.
Not as good as you, I can say. So what's up, man? How's the season going? You took yourself off the books this season, becoming a GM, so you saved yourself that contract that you had last season, and right now you guys are leading your division, and with a team like New Jersey sitting right there with you, that's quite the feat in itself. It's a very difficult team to keep up with, and so far you've been able to stay ahead.
Yeah, it's been a grind, I'll tell you. Just running a team's normally a grind, in addition to like going to school and stuff.
Right.
Bidding, being the first time to bidding, I didn't really understand how it worked out, so I had a really bad bidding, but then after I made some trades and team got turned around.
Yeah, I mean, Philly was sitting in a precarious situation at the end of last season. I mean, they didn't have the season that they wanted to have. And, when people were talking about when ownership was given out the Flyers were one of the teams that people said, nobody wants to touch that team. Nobody wants anything to do with the Flyers. They weren't good last season. They don't have any assets. And, well, I mean, look at you now, right? I mean, what can you say about the Flyers other than they've gone from worst to first and look to have a very deep team from top to bottom?
Oh, does he have his mic muted?
Yeah, he's muted.
You're muted. Muted. Here
Come on, Downey. You're cramping our style.
I think I can hear him clicking buttons over there. But I guess for the time being, we'll just go ahead and give it this.
Yeah, but anyway, they're 24-10-2 on the season, 50 points. They've got 127 goals for, 117 against, 13-5-1 at home, 11-5-1 on the road, and they're 8-2-2 in 1-goal games. This team has been very tough to beat regardless of the situation, and they've continued to improve because their roster has improved from where it was to start the season to now. So this team, I guess, as good as they've been, have gotten themselves better. And if I were to take a guess, I would imagine that they're probably not done making one or two moves here before the end of the season. But they went out and picked up Larkin, who's 9-2-1 on the season. Mivian's in net is 7-4. But Saucy on the season is 11-0-1, doesn't have a regulation loss. He's got 36 points, 12 goals, 24 assists. He's a plus 13. We played against him the other night with Super Vezina in net, and we ended up, I don't remember what the score of that game was, but
I could tell you here in just a second.
But
it was 4-3.
4-3. That was the last Sunday. And we just, late in the game there, we could get to about the blue line, and then it was like running into a brick wall. But they made a move to bring in Hazy Hype, who, regardless of what people in the league say about him so far this season, has gotten it done. He's 10-1-1 on the season. Downey, of course, if he ever he did unmute his mic.
There he is.
I had to go start a car real quick.
9-1-2 on the season with 12 points, so point a game. And you guys are rolling right now.
It's just we like to play a lot. Like the guys already play a lot together, so they just come together and play.
So you guys play games outside of league fairly frequently then?
Well, he muted it again.
Yeah, I think he's Checkmate's having trouble getting into that. He's waiting for the plug to install to allow the connection to the call.
Must have an iPhone.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but Downey time is kind of being a downer right now. Don't even get to talk to him.
Yeah, I mean, he must have an iPhone.
Yeah, I've got an iPhone and it works fine for me.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and give it a. Oh, that's what I think of the iPhone.
Yeah, well, it's because you don't know shit. So your shit has air squeaking around it. So, all right. Starting to smell up the studio. But I mean, I'm looking at the roster here, and we the North is 5-6 on the season with 17 points. For this team, he's struggled a bit, but most of these guys on their team have 1, 2, or 3 losses on the season through 4 weeks. So they've been playing deep all the way through. But the guy I haven't mentioned yet, who has had the best season of them all on this team, doesn't. No, I mentioned him already if you were paying attention. But he's only got 28 points on the season, comparatively speaking, to the 36 that Saucy has. But Mesmerize is 12-0 on the season. Hasn't lost a game in overtime or in regulation. And, if Downey asks him to do any more than he's already done, he's asking him to do too much, because you can't do much more than winning every single one of your games through 4 weeks.
Well, and the thing that stands out to me the most about Mesmerized throughout his season, other than the fact that he's 12-0, is the fact that he has not taken a single penalty yet. 0 PIMs on the season. That's outstanding, especially for a winger. He's sitting at minus 33 as well, which in the takeaway giveaway. Now for a forward, that's damn good. Honestly, that's really good. He's taking care of the puck. He's taking care of his high sticks. He's not taking penalties.
That's an average.
Getting it done.
That's an average of like minus 2.8 per game. So he's coming out every game, takeaway, giveaway, like a 6-to-8 ratio, or eight giveaways, 6 takeaways, somewhere around there.
And that's an outstanding job. I mean, he has 29 takeaways. So right there, that would tell you, he has 52, 62 total.
So yeah, I mean, I'm going to say he's having an incredible season. I'm sure somebody will give me a reason as to why I shouldn't have said he's playing really well, but 12-0, hey, what can you say?
0 PIMs. Could be a front runner for the Lady Bing right there with no penalty minutes, if you can keep that pace alive.
Yeah, and the front Schroyer decided this season he was going to go for the Lady Bing, and then after his first game, when he took a couple of penalties, he went in the shout box and said he's going after the Man Bing award this year. So, but yeah, I mean, he might be up for several awards. One, when you look at a guy like that, how many people are undefeated through an entire season? If he's able to win all of his games this season, at this pace, that's all you can really assume. It's not, it's not really probable to expect someone to go undefeated on the season, but we've seen guys have 1 or 2 losses on the season. Who's to say he can't do it? But if you have a guy that goes undefeated on the season, I mean, team MVP, right? Like, I mean, could that be league MVP talk? Even if he doesn't lead the league in points, if you're winning every single game you're in, there's not really much more you could be doing right.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the definition of most valuable player. I'd be curious to go back and see if anybody has gone undefeated in a season yet. I know there's been several guys who only lost a couple of games or 2, maybe 3 games, but I'm curious if anybody's gone undefeated yet. We hit the halfway point of next week and he's won all 3 of his games or a couple of his games. He'd be sitting at the halfway point still undefeated.
He'd be on the downside of it.
Yeah, Saucy's right there with him at 11-0-1. So, he has that asterisk loss or the non-reg loss. So
points in every game still, though.
Yeah, I mean, that's outstanding. So, this team is definitely built to win.
Everyone's outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a great job by Checkmate, here. And this is, in my book, and looking at a team like this, as they're built, what their record is, it's the perfect candidate for a possible Jack Adams as well, for a guy who came and took over a team that was just dead and has them right at the top of the league, it's straight taking care of business. So that's a great job by Checkmate. And number one, choosing his management, picking a guy like Downey to be your GM is basically a win-win. The guy knows everybody in the league. He's an outstanding player himself. So, that's a win-win in picking him and then going out and grabbing Saucy as his AGM. This team's definitely set and built to be there when the smoke clears at the end of the season.
For sure. And, like I said, another guy having an outstanding season on their team is Hazy Hype. Only has 1 regulation loss. He's 10-1-1 on the season with 32 points. So they're getting high production win value wise out of a lot of their guys right now, and that's the biggest reason why they're sitting at the top of this division. Though it does make you wonder if New Jersey wins one of those 6 games that they lost in a row, they go 2-7 in that week. If they win 3 games that week, 4 games that week. They're sitting, in first place right now. So this division at the very top is tight, and so far, Philly has managed to come out on top through 4 weeks in the season. So, the one thing I will point out, the difference between Philly and New Jersey is that New Jersey's allowed 120 goals. Philly's allowed 117. So they've allowed 3 less than New Jersey, but New Jersey has scored 146 goals compared to Philly's 127. So Philly's playing a little bit tighter of a game defensively, not putting up quite as many goals as the Devils are. But so far it's been the recipe for success for this team. And unless something drastic happens, I expect both of those teams to be fighting for one in the division, possibly. I mean, unless Florida falters, who knows? But they're only 7 and 9 points behind the Florida Panthers, who are 28-7-1 on the season. Those 3 teams could be fighting for the President's Trophy at the end of the season, along with the Stars. And, we'll see what happens with the Wild after losing Chiz Nasty today, which is going to be a big blow because it's not just losing an owner, but also losing a very good center on the ice who wins a lot of games and does his job most of the time. So we'll see what happens there. But those 5 teams are all fighting right now for the President's Trophy. And the Flyers and Devils will probably continue to do so for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and it does appear as though we do have Downey back. So
with a camera this time.
I just want to call attention to Shroom Smoke. He's been having a great season for us. 500K. We tried to get him a bit. We tried to get him a bidding, but it didn't work out. And we got a trade for him for a 3rd round pick, and he's been lighting it up pretty much. Has like 16 points.
Yeah, he's he's 9 and 3. He's got 19 points, 4 goals, 15 assists. Playing, he's a right D, is he not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's
played
center last season.
All right,
5 mil.
Yep.
So what was the other part of that deal there?
Just stream for a 3rd.
Wow. Wow, that's a great deal, man. If you can give up a 3rd round draft pick and have a guy come in and straight be 9 and 3 for you on the season, he's taken 2 penalties in 12 games.
He's almost 2 points a game.
He's almost 2 points a game as a D man. I mean, what more could you ask for a 3rd rounder? Are you kidding me? That's a win-win-win right there.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, Downey, is there anything else from your team? I was just talking to Checkmate. I'm going to test with him sometime this weekend if he can get that figured out, or this week, and make sure it works, and we'll get him on the show next week. But, it sucks not to be able to get him on because it'd be a perfect situation to talk to him. But is there anything that he wanted you to make sure you talked about with your team? I mean, so far you're getting we were talking right after you left about the performances you've gotten out of Saucy and Mesmerize so far. Mesmerize 12-0 on the season. I mean, Hazy Hype's 10-1-1 on the season. You're getting some very high production in the win category out of some of your guys.
Yeah. They just show up to play. Like, that's all they want to do. They just show up, play their games, leave, That's what they do.
Well, as long as they keep winning.
Now, you had mentioned earlier that, a lot of you guys, play together. Now, my question to you there is, is it just a small group of you guys, say 5, 6 players, or is it literally almost all of your team always playing together all the time?
Well, the 3rd line plays together. Like, I usually play with Saucy, Fooch, sometimes Hazy, JJ, Check comes around too, Super Vez, like all of them. Like, we play together.
Nice.
Larkin.
Yep. We didn't even mention.
Skinner just comes and does what he does.
We didn't even mention Skinner, who's got 25 points on the season. He's 6-3-2. Or we also didn't mention Jay Jr. Larkin was the first guy I mentioned. Jay Jr. having 35 points on the season is 1 point behind Saucy for the team lead. So spread out very well across the roster for sure.
Yeah.
And did you just make a move to bring in We the North last week, or was he with you all season?
It was recently. I don't really remember
The last couple
We
weeks.
made like a few big trades at the beginning of the season, but then we just kind of stopped after that.
Well, if it's working, I mean, you're in first place, so you don't want to break the key that you've used to unlock the door. If it's working, you don't want to make too many major changes. If you see an opportunity for improvement, you do it, but you don't go looking to trade everybody when you're in first place. So, any other topics you wanted to discuss on the air while you were here?
Florida's a crazy good team.
Yep, they were your pick last season, weren't they?
Yep, they were. Lost in game 7.
Yep, I picked them too. I was the only one to pick them, and I was disappointed when they lost because I thought I was going to be right.
Yeah.
I was picking them all year except for in the last one.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I mean, Downey, we got to start. Your job, I guess, is send me a link to what music we need to use for Downey time to get you on the show.
I got you.
Now, bear in mind that we cannot use copyrighted music. We cannot use it.
If you can find like a cover version of it though, I believe we can use a cover of it.
Yeah.
So something that sounds similar but isn't the actual version.
While we have you here, man, we might as well go ahead and get your point of view on it. What do you think about the madness that has gone down in the last 2 weekends in LG?
It's
second tag
crazy. Like I don't really know much of like the specifics, but like a lot of banning has been going on, and if they cheat, they cheat. I've gotten banned for what was it? Not second tag, using another person's account to write in the shout box. And I know how it feels. It's pretty bad, but
oh god, they banned you just for that, huh?
Yeah, you have to serve it.
Wow. I mean, Detroit went from sitting at the top of the league. The only team that they were behind were the Florida Panthers, and now they're sitting down as the last place team in the conference after all those wins being overturned. I mean, how does that affect your view on like a playoff race, something like that? Does that hurt you that teams in your division may have gotten free wins? If you got, I don't know if you guys beat Detroit or not, Downey, but what's your opinion on how it affects the league from a standing standpoint when teams did beat Detroit, had 2 points, but now the 2 points that they gained there are lost because other teams that lost to them get those 2 points back?
Well, we got our 2 points back, but I feel bad for Detroit because like some of those guys, they really worked hard. They really worked hard to get their wins.
Absolutely.
And wait, did the games only get reversed with the guys who were in it that were banned?
I believe that's the case. I didn't go check every game, but it sounded like the games that banned players played in were reversed.
Yeah.
I think so.
Games.
When we first like got into the game, like Saucy immediately called out. He's like, "Yo, I think like that's some weird shit right there," because they had like a guy who was just a level 1. We were like, and like with the name like Boom Shakala Boom, like that's just like an obvious like second tag name. It's like one of like just cancel it. And when it draws, just like dancing through everyone.
It wasn't every win because they're 7-28-1 on the season, so they still have 7 wins. So it wasn't every win because they did not go 7-2 this past week.
Yeah.
So it was the wins.
That's a lot of them.
Yeah, that's crazy though because they were, obviously, I guess, considered cheating, but were one of the best teams in the league, and now have just gone from first to worst in the blink of an eye. And if Fordy truly knew nothing about it, which I believe him when he says he didn't, I feel really bad for the guy because he thought he went out and built a really good team just to find out that he was going to have it all ripped away from him.
For sure. I'm counting. Hang on.
15, 16, 24, 38, 92.
16 total wins. 16 games that were 1-0. Now, whether or not those are all forfeited games, there could have been a couple sprinkled in that were actually 1-0. But yeah, that many. That's brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big hit.
Well, for instance,
That's 2/3 of their wins.
Well, Schroyer played in a bunch of those games, and I think he was I think 9-1-2 on the season or something like that. And now he's like 1-10-1 after all those games are overturned, and that is by far the most losses he's ever had in a single season.
Yeah, I feel the worst for Forley too, man. Like the poor dude, like it just sucks. What a bummer, man. But
Yep.
Hats also off to him for sticking with it and trying to get his team back going.
He's handled it pretty well.
He really has.
Yep, and also I just wanted to throw a quick shout out there to Buds, who put up his first Hanging with Buds thread this weekend. He's got Dallas Stars owner Chief on there, so instead of just going in and rating it dumb, go give him a chance, read that thing, because it's actually pretty good. And I wanted to give him a shout out because he's making an effort to bring media to the league, where it's easy for some people who don't to sit back and tell people that they're dumb for doing stuff but not contribute anything else themselves. So good on you, Buds. Nice job. And go vote for Downey in that All-Star poll too. Downey, I guess as long as I got you here, I did want to ask you about that. I haven't been able to actually physically talk to anybody yet about it. What's your opinion on the All-Star format that we came up with?
It's very good. Just depending on how many people actually decide to show up, really.
Right. We'll try and replace them with guys who will play, because we'd like to see the tournament actually take place. That's the goal here, because I think it'd be really interesting to see these all-star teams. The divisions will be represented equally, but then you have drafted teams play against each other, and it'll be really fun to see how that plays out and see.
The only flaw I see is that having the owners pick one player from each position.
What do you mean?
Like, it leads to like just drama within some teams.
Oh, right. Well,
it'd be better if it was like a way for like others to pick.
Yeah, maybe, or even the team to vote on their players or something.
One of the reasons I had to go that way, to be completely honest, was I had to put this together at an extremely fast pace.
Right.
Oh yeah, I understand that.
So going into next season, it's something I'd like to kind of take care of in the off season a little bit and try and set up a system where we can start getting votes on who deserves to be in the All-Star game from the league. And then once those guys go that way, have just the one vote system from all the players in the league. The only problem with that is there's no way to make sure it's not a popularity contest. There's always going to be people who are just really popular in the league. A lot of them are really good players and deserving to be there that are also the most popular, one of the reasons why they're popular. But the other thing would be, like an example, PSU Lions is having an incredible season for us on defense. A lot of people don't know who he is, so he gets much less recognition than a guy like Beavesy, who's his D partner, who's having the same exact season as him. So, it's hard to find a way to get around that, but also didn't want to have it just be like, I'm not going to pick all the players for the All-Star team. That's not fair. So
plus you'd get crushed for it.
Right.
How dare you pick that guy?
Right. Well, I started to after I put him out.
Get a ton of good goods.
Right. So I started to get that when I was putting the threads out, and I was like, hey, be mad at the owners because the owners picked who go on this list,
Right.
not me.
Immediately deflect the blame off, man.
Right. And it's not just about that, but it's also letting people know exactly how the process works. So,
right. Yeah, keeping it transparent.
For sure. So, Downey, is there anything else you want to get to, or we're going to let you go so we can move on with the show and get the hell out of here?
I think we covered all of it.
Perfect. Well, send me a link to your music, and we will get Downey time as long as you can be around. I know you're busy some Saturday nights, but if you can be around, we'll get Downey time on the air.
Sounds about right.
Perfect. Thanks, Downey. Thanks for joining us, and tell Checkmate we'll try and get him on next week for sure. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Adios.
Later, bud.
And that was Downey, the GM of the Philadelphia Flyers, but you all knew that because everybody knows Downey. He's quite the character in the league for sure, and I love getting that guy on. He's always got an interesting point of view on things. So Moran, let's move to this week's LG Hockey Hotline Power Rankings. Oh man, you just woke up Mom. This shit was loud. All right, so this week on the power rankings, we the list is shaking up a little bit. But I'll move right into the goalies. Coming in at 10th, Pat Dean, 12 for the Calgary Flames, went 5-1 this week. 335 goals against and a 69.1 save percentage. Played the max number of games, only lost a game, helping Calgary be a team right there at the top of that Western Pacific Division that is so tight in the race right now. B. Brawler goes 3-0 on the week for the LA Kings, who I believe went 8-1 this week, if I'm not mistaken. Goes 3-0 on the week, 42 saves in those 3 games, 2.34 goals against, an 85.7 save percentage, and then gets traded to Montreal. And then coming in at number 8, Killer Rampage for the Colorado Avalanche. The Avalanche found a way to get both of their goalies on here. This week he went 3-0. Colorado making a statement this week. Killer Rampage, 27 saves, 1.67 goals against, 84.4 save percentage. These 4 goalies, 10 through 7, didn't have any shutouts. But coming in at 7, Crofto 40 for the St. Louis Blues, making the power rankings again, went 4-0 on the week, 38 saves, 2.0 goals against, and an 82.6 save percentage. Then you have Alonzi 401 for the Minnesota Wild, who played all 6 games, and he won all 6 games, getting 1 shutout with a 2.4 goals against, a 79.5 save percentage. I mean, what more can you say about a goalie that goes 6-0 on the week, playing the max number of games and winning every single one of them? Last week's number 1 goalie in the league, who's hot, was H. Spartan G, Hockey God. Went 5-1 this week, making it into the 5th spot. 44 saves, 1.67 goals against, an 81.5 save percentage, and 1 shutout. Coming in at number 4, Rhino 1354, a guy I mentioned for the New Jersey Devils. They picked him up at a $500K contract. He went 3-0-1. 36 saves, 1.32 goals against, 85.7 save percentage, and 2 shutouts. Coming in 3rd, a familiar goalie named J. Carlos 44, going 3-0 for the Nashville Predators. Him and Spartan combining to go 8-1 on the week for the Predators. Carlos getting a 1.0 goals against average and a 91.7 save percentage with 1 shutout. And then you got Kearns for the Chicago Blackhawks going 4-1 on the week with 42 saves, a .80 goals against average, a 91.3 save percentage, and 3 shutouts. That's ridiculous. I don't ever remember even looking at this list at any point and seeing 3 shutouts in a single week by a goalie.
Yeah, me either.
And coming in at the number 1 spot, 0033. He was a draft pick of the Carolina Hurricanes. The Avalanche traded Schneider for 00, straight up in a goalie trade. And, he comes in, goes 6-0 this week, 55 saves, a 1.52 goals against average, and an 85.9 save percentage with 1 shutout. I'm going to go ahead and pick Kearns as my number 1 goalie this week, my number 1 star. Anytime a goalie, can get 3 shutouts in a week playing 5 games, that's an incredible job. So Kearns wins this week's LG star for goalies. Let's move on to defense, Moran.
Well, just a real quick note on that. 3 of his 4 wins were shutouts. So, that's a great job. But going into the defenseman for the week, there are some familiar faces on the list, but as always, there are some newcomers. Starting right at number 20 is Sean 24 for the LA Kings. He's coming in at 3-0 on the week with 5 points. And the next is Stivey. 66 or Stevie. Sorry, it's a bad habit.
Stevie.
Stevie 66 went 2-0 on the week with 4 points, picking up a goal, plus 10 on the week. And then Larkin for the Philadelphia Flyers, who we were just speaking about just a few minutes ago, going 3-0 on the week with 3 points, plus 3 on the week. Good job there, Larkin. Coming in at 17 is OK Krusty for the Calgary Flames, 2-0 with 4 points. And then Weed Farmer for the Colorado Avalanche.
OK Krusty and Larkin did also both play both defensive positions.
Yeah. Weed Farmer. So Weed Farmer coming in at number 16, going 3-0 on the week with 2 points, plus 11, getting it done for Colorado. There's a lot of Colorado Avalanche on the list this week, as you'll notice.
When you go 9-0, that's what happens.
Ryudo going 3-0 on the week with 4 points, plus 8. And then Sarkeesian going 3-0 on the week with 5 points. And then Son 13 for the St. Louis Blues, 3-0 on the week with 4 points. Big T 757 for the LA Kings, going 2-0 on the week. And then you got Fouch 87 going 3-0 on the week, picking up 4 points. And then Braden for the Washington Capitals as well is going 3-0 on the week with 4 points. And then Mashal 93 going 2-0 for Washington this week. And then you got what I think is becoming one of the most underrated defenders in the league in PSU Lions. Just kind of really coming back to the league here, and just he's been on the list every single week since week 1. So hats off to you, Lions. Great job, man. 3-0 on the week, 5 points, plus 7. Then you got K-Mac for the Colorado Avalanche going 2-0 on the week with 4 points. Deep Herons for the San Jose Sharks going 2-0 on the week with 6 points. And then you got an old familiar face here in the Norris winning Fumin Cheesy for the Boston Bruins, going 3-0 this week, picking up 3 points and a plus 8. And now we're getting into the top, the cream of the crop here. Daddy Marino coming in the 4th spot for the Nashville Predators, going 3-0 on the week, 6 points, 2 of them goals, plus 9 on the week. Sitting in the 3rd spot, getting the league's 3rd star of the week, is Beavesy from the Arizona Coyotes, going 3-0 this week, picking up 6 points, 2 of them goals, and a plus 7 on the week. Great job, Beavesy, man. That's obviously a D pair, as you can tell. And then coming in is at the 1 and 2 positions for the week is what I would go ahead and assume another D pair. At the number 2 spot is Official Mark 07, going 3-0 on the week with 8 points, 1 of them being a goal and 7 assists, a plus 15 on the week. And then Odie coming in the number 1 spot.
Bad play, BJ.
With 9 points, 2 goals, plus 14, averaging 3 points per game there. My number 1 star is going to Odie, just because he did have the 9 points, the 2 goals, and a plus 14 on the week. So great job by all the defenders on the list this week, and good luck to you coming into next week. And with that, we will go ahead and move on to the forwards.
Yeah, and coming in at number 20 is the league's leading scorer, GB 521 for the Washington Capitals. I assume they went 3-0 unless I say a different record. He had 13 points on the week, 7 goals, a plus 3. Easton 17 coming in from the Minnesota Wild, getting 13 points, 7 goals, plus 5. RV Clutch, my boy, as he used to say, 2-1 on the week, 13 points, 6 goals, plus 7. Counterattack, the owner of Colorado, only playing 2 games this week. He comes in with a 2-0 record, 8 points, 7 goals. Theos making it back on the list in the 16 spot with 12 points. He had 4 goals and a plus 5 for the LA Kings. Hazy Hype makes the list. He had 12 points this week. 6 of those were goals, 6 of them were assists, and he was a plus 8 playing right wing and center. Coming in at the number 14 spot was Hayes 11 for the Dallas Stars, 2-0-1 on the week with 14 points and 7 goals. He was an even. That's interesting. Coming in at the number 13 spot, Reddy, who's having an outstanding season. He's got traded from I think the Kings to the Carolina Hurricanes. He went 2-0-1 on the week, 13 points, 6 goals, plus 4. Coming in at number 12, Flying Red 527, another guy who is flying under the radar. 3-0 this week, 11 points, 7 goals, plus 7 for the Arizona Coyotes. Coming in at number 11 is Snipe Shot. He had 10 points, 7 of those were goals and a plus 4. Coming in at the number 10, Jay Cool, GM of the Buffalo Sabres. In 2 games, he had 9 points and 7 goals, 4.5 points a game. And then making some noise as he leaves the league, Chiz Nasty going 3-0 with 14 points and 6 goals and a plus 8. For the Columbus Blue Jackets, getting a bright spot here with Cav 86, picking up 13 points. Seems like everybody scored 13 points on this list, huh? 13 points, 6 goals, and a plus 4 for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Terry Tour went for the Calgary Flames, 13.6 goals, plus 9. Wally Wallaby having a really good season for the Nashville Predators, has 12 points and 7 goals on the week. Coming in at the number 5 spot for the New Jersey Devils, JD Hegel going 3-0 with 13 points and 6 goals with a plus 11. And then J Claus 33 coming in at number 4 with 16 points, 10 goals, and a plus 10. The league's top 3 stars were Mfrika for the Colorado Avalanche with 17 points, 5 goals, and a plus 12. And then, of course, Clarkscog, who I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's leading the league in goals, or tied for the league lead in goals this season. Gets 12 points on the week with 9 goals, a plus 6, going 3-0 for the LA Kings. And then coming in at the league's number 1 star for the week, Poland's Finest, going 3-0 with 15 points, 10 goals, a plus 12, 5 points a game, helping Colorado go 9-0 on the week, which is, really good job by Colorado to go 9-0. They could have used one of those weeks in the last 3 weeks of last season. They probably would have made the playoffs. That division was so tight. So good job for them. For me, my first star this week is going to be Mfrika from Colorado, going 3-0 on the week, 17 points, 5 goals, which means he had 12 assists, was a plus 12, setting up Poland's Finest, I'm going to assume, on a lot of those goals, is Poland's Finest had 10 goals, 5.7 points a game, playing right wing for the Colorado Avalanche. So the number 1 star going to Mfrika, or Mfrika. Those are all your stars for the week. This week's power rankings on LG Hockey Hotline. Congratulations to all you guys. Great weeks.
And you were correct. Clarkscog is part of a 4-way tie atop the league in goals with 28. He is tied with Guy 20, Hayes, Guy 20 from the Edmonton Oilers, Hayes from the Dallas Stars, and the one and only Jay Claus from the New Jersey Devils.
Yes, sir. Well, I have to assume that next week when we're sitting here talking to you, we're talking about more bands, because that seems to be a trend. I'm just kidding. I have no idea what we're going to talk about next week.
I hope we're not.
Yeah, me too. But and on a serious note, though, we have now completed all 4 divisions, so that will free us up to have some more guests on if we're able to do so next week. Actually, next week, I think this frees us up in time, because next week we hope to be airing the 3-game series for the All-Star game instead of our show. Talk about the All-Stars and how the tournament's gone so far, and taking care of business there. So get out there if you haven't already. AHL, CHL, wherever you are in LG, get your votes in there. Pick who you want to be on this all-star team. Like I said, the polls right now are set to close Thursday late at night, Friday early in the morning, but Triz will not be around on Friday. So I am going to close those polls Wednesday night. So get your votes in by Wednesday night for the All-Star game, because you will not be able to vote Thursday, as we will be building the draft so we can get those guys drafted onto teams and start the tournament on Friday night. Going to be a lot of fun.
For sure. It should be an interesting tournament. Hopefully everybody who is chosen for that tournament can make a little bit of time to be part of the first annual All-Star weekend here on LG.
Absolutely. Well, I am all talked out. Do you have anything else that we didn't cover? I think we probably threw a blanket over another blanket and covered everything twice. So we should probably get the hell out of here for the weekend.
I would think so. And on that note, we'll say good luck to everybody in week 5. We are almost at the halfway point in season 4 of the LGHL on the PlayStation side. And, keep on trucking, everyone. And make sure you have a good week 5 here.
You should call me on my cell phone. Late night when you need my love. Call me on my cell phone. Late night when you need my love. And I know when that hotline bling, Chris, that can only mean one thing. I know when that hotline bling.